What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XRP today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. It is the 5th day of September, and in this video, I want to actually compare XRP to a couple of different things. I want to compare XRP to the others chart, and I want to compare XRP to Bitcoin. So we're going to pull up XRP first. Actually, can we do that? Yeah, XRP USD here. We'll do the crypto chart over others. There we go, right? So XRP versus others. That's the crypto total. XRP USD, we'll do the all-time history, and we'll compare it to that, okay? Looking at this here and making sure it's in log. I think it should be in log. We're not going to get any numbers. Anytime you take the smaller one and you make your own chart over the larger one, which the others chart is at 297 billion. XRP's price is like $3, so it's just monumentally different. You just get unreadable numbers, so don't worry about the readings here. We're just going to look at the chart, okay? XRP, and let's actually put this on the weekly time frame. So this, in other words, is how XRP has performed versus the top 125 coins, excluding the top 10. The others chart is the total crypto market cap excluding the top 10. Really, it's the top 125 coins excluding the top 10, unless they've added more. But to my knowledge, it's the top 125 minus the top 10. So XRP versus the altcoin market, essentially, right? The major participants in the altcoin market. We look at this here. XRP had a massive, absolutely massive sell-off, you guys, versus altcoins, going back to November 2018. Came down, and then this was just a long-term, if we're looking at it like any chart, this is what you would call a long-term accumulation phase. And we know it's accumulative because you moved sideways for a very long time, right? Highs here, lows there, whatever, but just essentially moving sideways for a long time. And then you had a very eruptive move up, okay? I have a hard time imagining that after all this time here, you had one move and then that was it, right? That's probably not it. And really, since May, right, a lot of cryptos, and wasn't it April 7th was when a lot of cryptos popped off. Since May, though, XRP has kind of outperformed the average coin. Now it's underperforming the average coin, it looks like, right? Whenever you move down, that's what that means. Underperforming the average coin, moving up, overperforming the average coin. But you've essentially been doing, you're basically right in the heart of the zone where altcoins and XRP have basically, if you're invested in XRP or you're invested in anything in the top 125, you're probably at about neutral, at flush, right? But XRP, again, going back to this idea that XRP has outperformed the average altcoin so far this cycle, at least that's what it seems. This cycle, right? We go back to 2021 or 2022, the end of 2022 when the cycle started here. It was back in January times, December 2022 to January. We are far higher than that area there, right? XRP is exceeding the growth, the valuations of the average altcoin by far. If we're looking at this from a high to a low, based off of this little nipple right there, high to low, we're in our extension area. Typically, whenever you find resistance at the 1414, you do go back to your 786, 886. Any support above that is considered bullish, and that's what we're doing. We're doing some very bullish stuff right here, consolidating in this area. It is a bit unorthodox that we're down here, but we're just overall in this consolidation phase. When we move up higher, I would expect that XRP does, and it does move up higher. It's going to probably go up to this 1886, 200 area, or even higher than that. We might see a continuation of this move here, which implies one thing, that XRP, compared to any coin that's in the top 125, or maybe not any coin, but the average coin, will likely outperform, if not all of them, 90% of them, right? Like the majority of them, it's going to outperform. And maybe not 90%, but the majority. It's going to outperform the average by maybe 86%. I would think that we do go up to the 2272, right? Maybe something just above the 2272, right? 81%, 80%, maybe as much as 100%, right? So what's nice about that is XRP is a blue chip crypto. It's one of those long-lived cryptos. It's been around for quite some time, right? Been around since, what was it, 2015, 2017? 2015, yeah, 2015 that it's been around. We just can't see the data back there, but the fact that the date goes back there shows, we've got, that's 2015. Anyways, since 2015, it's been around for a very long time. It's safe in that kind of sense, right? It's not some kind of scam coin. It's not just a project that's here and there, right? Here now, gone later. There's a lot of potential for growth here, and it's got as much potential, if not likely more potential, than the average coin that's even in the top 125 right now. XRP, and I'm talking about coins like Pepe, I'm talking about coins like Swift coin, or not Swift coin, sorry, SWI, talking about Hyperliquid, talking about Pangu, right? All these coins. This thing's going to outperform all of them by a decent margin. Nothing crazy. 100% extra is nothing too crazy, but that is sizable enough where XRP I think is very attractive in that sense. That's why we're talking about this chart. Now I'd like to compare XRP to BTC. Okay, and by the way, if we're looking at this overall, if we're looking at it on a monthly scale, we zoom way the hell out. We look at this here. You've got a lot of retracing to do, and I think something like this, I think with that kind of curvature, something like this, you've got a lot of growth to go. And I doubt that you stop like an insignificant amount higher than this. You're probably going to retrace all the way back up here. I don't have any values, so it's unfortunate that I can't do that. Let's actually see if we can switch it around. Let's do others to XRP. Let's just see if that does anything real quick. Others to XRP. And it'll make it, because it's not in log. For whatever reason, whenever you do the bigger one after the smaller one, it doesn't take it in log. Watch, this chart's going to look different. It's the inverse. It should be flipped upside down, but this one doesn't look like it's put in log, even though the chart says it's in log. You'll see what I mean once it loads. It's just taking its sweet time because I'm in the slow part of the house for whatever reason. All right, you see, it's the same chart. It's reverted, but you can tell that this one's in log, where if I took it out of log, it looks more like the other chart did, just again upside down. Anyways, now it's whenever this is going down that XRP is actually in a bullish configuration. It's outperforming the markets, right? Because this is others versus XRP. In this kind of context, let me just see here. Let me take this low to high. I would think that by the end of the cycle, yeah, we're somewhere down around here. Let's see. And that negative 56%, it's not the same. It's not like, that doesn't mean that we're outperforming it by 56%. That's well over 100% actually. But we could go all the way down to that 1886, 200 level, the 2272, something like that. Something in this area here where you're below this low, but probably above these lows here. Something in this area. You've got more to come is all I'm trying to say. XRP will likely outperform the others, the average coin in the markets, right? We can see that visibly here. XRP to BTC. Whoops. Actually, I think we can just do XRP to BTC, can't we? I don't need to do that. There's plenty of exchanges with that as a pairing. Yes. Let's look at that there. I'm going to turn off my VPN because I feel like that makes things slower whenever it's on. We'll turn it off. And I'll close down some tabs in another window that I have open. Maybe. If it lets me. I don't know. Let's just come back here. All right. XRP to BTC. Okay, so XRP to BTC has been chilling in this consolidation phase, again, in an accumulation phase of its own, right, for a very long time. We've been consolidating now in this area since about 2019, the ass end of 2019 there, September of 2019, so going on 6 years now, right? We look at this. Whoop. We look at this whole range here. All right, we've been in this, and we are clearly doing something different now in this area than we've done any other time before, right? Whenever we came up like we were going to move up higher, we rejected. We came up like we were going to move up higher, we rejected. Came up like we were going to move higher, consolidated for a couple months, but then rejected. Came up here and then rejected. Here we came up, and if you notice that we have not rejected, we've actually just been moving sideways in a very horizontal consolidation phase, right? This is very bullish. Whenever you move up and you see a horizontal consolidation phase, it's actually very bullish, and horizontal phases typically allow the price to grow in the same direction that the consolidation phase was approached by, right? So you're approached or that the price came into, right? You approached it from the downside coming up, so you're going to leave it from the downside coming up, if that makes sense. I would think here, looking at where we are here, this is clearly the area that we found resistance. Maybe we could bring it down a little bit more. This is the point that we've been held down by. Again, offering that same thought as like with the other chart. After this kind of consolidation, do you think that you're just going to stop here? Do you think that you're going to have an insignificant move up? Probably not. You're probably going to see that next phase higher. You're probably going to go a whole step higher, right? You've been consolidating here since 2019. You've been consolidating here since 2019, 6 years. You're going to break out, and what? You're going to see a little taste? Probably not. You're going to go up to the next level. Where's the next level? Well, looking at this chart here, I feel like it's very obvious that this point of resistance is fair. Resistance, a little bit of support right there, kind of insignificant on this run, but resistance there, resistance here, right, on the closing basis. We take the high. Oh, that was not the high. We take the high here, the all-time high versus Bitcoin to the low, and there's a line that's very near this on the fibs, which is the 786, you guys. If we move that white line up a little bit, It doesn't come into contact with this area. In all fairness, it skips that area a little bit, but it's still, looking at this relatively speaking, that is like the next area that you'd expect to find resistance. Because again, are we going to stop here? Are we going to move up? We spent all this time consolidating, 6 years consolidating below this area just to make that move? I don't think so. We're going to move up all the way up here, which is all the way at about 0.0001. So to put that in perspective, that's a percent of a percent versus Bitcoin. All right. Let's put that in perspective versus the current price. If Bitcoin 1% right now at 110.7K, 1% would be $1.10, right? $1.10.7. But let's just do $1.10. That's 1%. A percent. Wait. Is that right? 100. Sorry. I'm sorry. No. A percent of $100 would be $1. A percent of $100,000 would be 1,000. Sorry, my bad. $1,174. I thought I was doing that wrong. $1,170 is 1%. We'd be doing a percent of a percent. So what's a percent of 1,100, right? A percent of 1,100 is $11, right? Yeah, that's $11. So XRP, when it makes its move up, if Bitcoin is at the same price as it's at now, would be at $11. But we don't think that Bitcoin's going to be at $11. Or we don't think that Bitcoin, I'm sorry, I'm getting tied up with my words. We don't think that Bitcoin's going to be at this same price by the time XRP moves up. And by the time XRP is moving up in US dollar values, that's whenever this XRP to BTC chart's moving up as well. So when XRP does move up, it'll be when Bitcoin's moving up. So again, the idea here is that at $110,000, 1% of $110,000 is $1,100. XRP here would be at a percent of a percent, which would then be $11, right? 1,100, a percent of that, which is a percent of the percent, that's $11, okay? That implies then that XRP will be above $11 whenever Bitcoin makes its next move higher. And it will make its next move higher here pretty soon. I want to just show you, I'm doing the math right, but I just want to do it on Google Calculator because talking numbers is different than seeing numbers. I don't want to have anybody too frustrated. I want you to take something away from this. Okay. Again, Bitcoin's worth 110. Let's just do it real quick. Let's say it's worth $110,000. It's worth a little bit more, but just to prove the point, it's worth 110.8K right now. But let's do 110 on the dot. Okay. So that's that's $11,000. Let's do $110,000 right there. We multiply that by the perceived outcome of XRP to BTC, which again I think it's very logical that we'd go all the way up here. That's about 3010645. 3010645. Okay. That's the price. That outcome, it'll probably give us something a little bit more than $11 actually, right? Because that's not just strictly a percent of a percent. It's a little bit over. That's $11.70, okay? That would mean that XRP's US dollar price would go to $11.70 if when XRP was here, Bitcoin was at these prices, but that's not going to happen. Bitcoin's going to be at higher prices. Bitcoin's going to be at 180,000, 160,000, and I don't know when XRP is going to top off. Bitcoin might top off at 180K, but XRP tops off before Bitcoin or after Bitcoin, more likely. So if Bitcoin tops off at 180K, XRP might top off then when Bitcoin's at 160K. So let's do that. Let's implement that number, 160K. Okay. Bitcoin cools off a little bit. It's down from its high. It's consolidating, letting altcoins run up. We multiply it by that same number, which was what? 0.0010645. That gives us a price of about $17. And I've talked about this $13.50 area to $17, or $13.50 to $16.50 a lot over the past months. $17, right? That's if Bitcoin's at 160K by the time XRP tops off. Give or take a few dollars, because I might be doing the calculations right, but I might not be doing the right assumption. What if instead of up here, we're down here? Or what if XRP does hit this level, but by the time it tops off in the US dollar pair, maybe it's at a lower price? What if Bitcoin's at a lower price whenever that happens, right? What if it doesn't top off here at all? What if it's at a lower level that it tops off? All these things. If we adjust for a room of error, a margin of error, a $17 price, first off, we've established that $11 is not where it will be. Because again, XR at $11.70, so probably not even $12, right? If XRP is breaking out, it's not going to break out and see a small move up. No, it's going to see a nice move up. And where it tops off, wherever that is, it's going to be when Bitcoin is at higher prices than it is now, which implies then that XRP will certainly be above $11.70. Let's just say $12, right? Where's the only target area that then makes sense if we are above $12, okay? And this is where the kind of crescendo of this analysis comes in. I know that we were off to a rocky start there. I feel like getting tongue-tied, slipping up on my words, but and the internet being slow is definitely not helping. But that's okay. That's what we get for living out in the country. You know, hold on 1 second here. We're getting it. Hold on. Let me see. All right, here we go. So we take an all-time high here from 2018 to the low here of this grandiose consolidation phase. The only other target that makes sense that's around $12 but above $12, right? We've assumed that it's going to be above $12 is this $13.56 area, which with the 1414, a very common interaction with this fib level is not to stop right at it, not to stop right below it, but to wick just above it. And what's just above it? $17, $16, $15, whatever. Again, assuming that there's some kind of margin of error here, because I'm not perfect, I'm not a prophet. Maybe we go right to $17 and I nailed it on the head, and I should have had more faith in that. But something above $13.50 is what I'm very confident in. And again, I'm only doing this analysis because first off, we haven't talked about it in a while. And I think a lot of you guys do appreciate it. But secondly, there's a lot of people who, whenever I talk about these prices, they think that I'm just pulling it out of my ass, that I'm just saying this for clicks, for views, for likes. I understand that it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it kind of grabs you, right? Oh, XRP could go to $13. How? Why? Let me hear the sense of that, right? And you hear someone just saying that's where it's going to go. They're like, okay, well, you're creating this projection for no reason. You're just saying that for clicks and likes. No, there's feasible, logical thought backed in this. We've done this so many times, right? We just haven't talked about it in a while. And again, it makes the most sense. What makes the most sense, at least that we've deduced here, if you can't get on board with the $13, the $17, you can't get on board with that, at least understand that what makes the most sense is that XRP will not stop at prices that are below $11.70. It will not stop below $12. On this next breakout, it's only going to go above there. If we're looking at these fib targets, which are very significant targets, my friends, look at this. Isn't just some random stuff. We talk about Fibonacci all the time. I use the Fibonacci retracement tool and extensions all the time. It's the bread and butter to my analysis, along with logic. We take a high to a low here. Look at where you stopped. You stopped right there above the 2272. Look at where you stopped here, right at the 1618. Look at where you found support, right at the 1272, twice. Okay, look at where we're stopping now. Look at where you found support. Look at where you found resistance. It's not a coincidence. Okay, it's a full moments in this thing's life for it to be something that's just random that I'm just using to agree with my storyline here. Okay, that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this really is to say that there are three targets, the primary target zone, the 1272 to the 1618, and there's more targets, absolutely. If I wanted to be a moon boy, I'd be like, look, we went to the 2272 this time, we're going to $251 this time. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Don't tell me any different. That's lazy. That's lazy. That's grabby stuff. That's if I wanted to be a moon boy, I could do that. I could do that and probably make a lot of people believe it. Just because it did it before, why not do it again? And maybe it does. Maybe over time it does, but not this cycle. Hell no. We're going to stay a little bit grounded. And I know it sounds like we're ungrounded. It sounds like we got our heads in the clouds. But the thing is, you guys, this thing is going to the clouds. It's going straight through the stratosphere. It's going all the way up. Because what doesn't make sense in this primary target zone, the 1618 to the 1272, what doesn't make sense is to stop anywhere around the first target area. So the only thing that makes sense, to me, it doesn't make sense if we go all the way up to $27. This cycle, we'll go even above that. But by the end of October, by the end of this next move, probably not. Probably move up, consolidate, do our thing, and then we move up going into next year, right? And then, by the way, I have it drawn here on the monthly time frame. That would make it look like it's December 2026. I don't think it'll be that long. But I do assume we'll get to that $67, $99 area. I'm thinking at least 40, if not at most, maybe 70 something dollars by the end of the cycle. That's my thought, or somewhere around $70. And we have targets for that as well, but that's not what we're talking about, right? If I wanted to be a moon boy, I could just talk about that all the time. We're talking about 1356 and around there, because typically with the 1414, you do wick just above it. You don't stop right at it. You do wick just above it, and then you consolidate. Then you do your thing. Maybe you pull back, whatever. You do your thing, and then you continue to rally. The 127 to 837 doesn't make any sense at all. We take XRP to BTC, we compare it, we do the math. The targets are just too high. It won't stop here. Maybe it stops here momentarily, but it won't stop here. This kind of consolidation that you're doing at the 786, 886 area, it's getting you set up for one thing and one thing only, and that is not to stop at the minimum target. You've been consolidated for multiple cycles. This is an implication of one thing and one thing only, that you will not stop at the minimum target. Where are you going to stop? I don't know. But something above there, and the only other target area that makes sense is 1357 or higher. Likely you go higher. It all makes sense in my opinion. Anyways, I got nothing else for you guys. Here we are about $2.83 right now. We absolutely very well could have found our lows. It's very possible that we found our lows, but I think that we'll probably go a little bit lower. We'll see. If we are to go below this, I mean, I have no problem with that being the low there at $2.70. But if we go lower, that 265 to 250 area is a very possible outcome. Find support down there, and then we move up. Okay, it's not a problem if it moves down. It's okay. I got nothing else for you. Hit the like button, subscribe. Take care of yourselves. All right. Bye bye.